5 years after marriage, my husband, in order to save his first love, had me undergo plastic surgery to make me look like his first love and took the blame for her. He also manipulated things secretly to have me judged as a mental patient. I was sent to a mental hospital and suffered bitterly there. Later, I learned that the child I had carefully raised was taken to a deserted beach and drowned. When I opened my eyes again, I went back to the time when my husband proposed to me. I withdrew my hand, and the ring fell to the ground. I shook my hand and said, "Sorry, I had a cramp in my hand." In my previous life, I married my boyfriend Lucas right after we graduated from university. After marriage, like many affectionate couples, we soon had a child. In order to take better care of the child, I quit my job and became a housewife at home, focusing on taking care of the child. Lucas then had more energy to devote to his work and became a famous lawyer within a few years. With my husband having a successful career and the child growing up healthily, I thought there couldn't be a better life than this. However, a class reunion started my nightmare. Because my son David suddenly clamored to eat egg tarts, I asked Lucas to go to the restaurant first. When I arrived at the door of the private room in the restaurant, I heard the conversation inside. Lucas's roommate Liam teased, "Lucas, I heard you hooked up with Emily again. Aren't you afraid that Sophia will make a fuss when she finds out?" I paused as I was about to push the door open. While I was wondering who Emily was, Lucas's words drifted into my ears. "Make a fuss? She's just a housewife now and depends on me to support her. How dare she make a fuss with me? Besides, Emily and I only got back in touch a few months ago. We're just friends." Lawyer Liam, watch your words. Hearing Lucas's words that belittled me to the dust, I was shaking with anger and immediately pushed the door open and had a big quarrel with him. That night, Lucas left after saying, "Crazy woman," and I walked home in a daze. After getting home, I took a shower to calm down a bit, then picked up my phone and sent a message to Lucas, "If we can't go on like this, let's get divorced. See you at the Civil Affairs Bureau at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning." The next morning, as I was about to go out to the Civil Affairs Bureau, someone reached out with a towel in hand as soon as I opened the door, and then I lost consciousness. When I woke up again, I found myself lying in the operating room. Before I could say anything, the dizziness hit me again. In a daze, I heard the voices of Lucas and a woman. Before I could make out what they were saying, the anesthetic in my body pulled me into sleep again. When I woke up again, I saw a strange face in the mirror. Before I could react, a group of policemen pushed the door open. Sitting in the interrogation room with my hands cuffed, the policeman in front of me said to me, "Emily, just confess everything. The chain of evidence is relatively complete." My ears were buzzing and I only heard the word Emily. My mind was in chaos and I couldn't think at all. Seeing that I didn't seem to be listening, the policeman knocked on the table in front of me and said, "Don't try any tricks. The prosecution has already filed a lawsuit with the court. If you cooperate with the investigation now, maybe your sentence can be reduced." Gradually coming to my senses, I shouted, "I'm not Emily, I'm not her, I'm not Emily." The policeman was stunned and said, "You say you're not Emily. How can you prove it?" "I'm Sophia, a local in this city. I live in the Weijing community. My husband is Lucas and I have a son named David. I'm really not Emily." After hearing what I said, the policeman went to my home to investigate. But I didn't expect that Lucas would say that his wife Sophia had been at home all along and actively cooperated with the tests proposed by the police. The test results dispelled the police's doubts and made my credibility in front of the police drop to zero. I was desperate. I cursed Lucas loudly in the detention center. Then a report proving that I had mental problems directly plunged me into the abyss. I knew it was all over. No one would believe what I said anymore and I could never get out. Numbly accepting the trial, on the way to the mental hospital, I saw a piece of news that a child was missing at the beach. That was my child, the child I had raised with all my heart and soul. He was gone. I seemed to have really gone mad. I shouted and pounded on the car window crazily. I wanted to avenge my child, but I couldn't. Now, even walking normally on the road was a luxury for me. When the car drove onto the bridge, I opened the door and jumped off. The seawater instantly wrapped around me. I closed my eyes. My child, don't be afraid. Wait for mommy. Mommy is coming. Sophia, will you marry me? There was a loud chorus of jeering around. My vision was blurred. I shook my head, and when I opened my eyes again, I saw Lucas's face, a face that made me want to cut him into pieces. He was on one knee, about to put the ring on my finger. I shuddered and pulled my hand back. He didn't react in time, and the ring fell to the ground, rolling around a few times before coming to a stop. Looking at the familiar scene, I suddenly realized that this wasn't a dream. I had been reincarnated. The suffocating feeling of the seawater filling my nostrils and my previous life tightly surrounded me. I stared at the man in front of me with hatred, and my hands began to tremble involuntarily. Noticing that something was wrong with me, Lucas stood up and wanted to hug me. I dodged sideways and shook my hand, saying, "Sorry, I just had a cramp in my hand." Hearing my words, Lucas bent down to pick up the ring and wanted to put it on my hand again, saying, "Sophia, marry me. I'll make you happy." I secretly rolled my eyes and quickly waved my hand, saying, "No, no, no. The proposal ring fell to the ground today, which means today isn't a good day for a proposal. Let's do it another day. Next time for sure." After saying that, I walked away quickly. On my way home, I was tense all over because of what had happened in my previous life, and my mind started working frantically to formulate a revenge strategy. How did those Avengers in novels make a glorious comeback for revenge? It's really true that you'll regret not having read more books when you need the knowledge. In the following days, I declined Lucas's invitations on the pretext of not feeling well. Hiding at home, I rewatched TV dramas like Temptation of Going Home about revenge and took out revenge novels to read them over and over again. Finally, I came up with a relatively complete revenge plan. First of all, I needed to gather all the relevant people. In my previous life, Lucas and Emily colluded with each other, not only harming me but also killing my child. In this life, I must make them pay the price. Since Liam knew Emily, I would start with him. The next day, I invited Liam out in Lucas's name. When he saw that it was only me, he asked, "Sophia, why is it just you? Where's Lucas?" I put on a happy look on my face and said, "I deliberately didn't ask him to come. Aren't we getting married soon? I heard that people usually have a bachelor's night the day before getting married. Lucas has never cared much about these things, but I don't want him to have any regrets. So I invited you out to talk about how to prepare a surprise for him." Hearing this, Liam covered his face and said, "You two are really showing off your love all the time. Leave some breathing space for single people." "Who said I didn't leave you a way out? I'm creating an opportunity for you. There are so many excellent girls out there. If you perform well, are you still worried about staying single?" I don't know all of Lucas's friends. You two have been classmates since high school. Try to invite them all. I want to leave Lucas an unforgettable memory. Got it, got it. Looking at the invitation list made by Liam, sure enough, Emily's name was on it. Looking at those 3 words, I remembered the face that had ruined my family. "In this life, I'll make you pay the price you deserve." I pointed at Emily's name and asked, "Who is this? How come I've never heard you mention her?" Liam's eyes flickered, and there was a hint of uneasiness on his face. "Oh, she's our high school classmate. She didn't go to the same university as us. I'll introduce her to you that day." I pretended not to notice his uneasiness and continued talking to him. In my heart, I scorned, this is human nature. People want their friends to live well, but they don't want them to live better than themselves. "Lucas, I'd like to see how long your so-called friends and lover can keep up the pretense without my help this time." On that day, I took Lucas to the private room. He was puzzled and said, "The wedding is tomorrow. Aren't you supposed to have a beauty sleep?" "Some friends are coming. We'll go back after playing for a while." As I said this, I was thinking in my heart that the person who wants to marry you is already waiting for you inside. Once I entered the private room, I looked around and fixed my eyes on Emily. She really came. Well, then the show begins. Lucas didn't look sideways, pretending not to know Emily. I sat beside him, watching him chatting with friends seriously, but out of the corner of his eye, he kept glancing in the direction where Emily was. The fish took the bait. I excused myself to go to the bathroom and left the private room. After going out, I found a corridor and picked up my phone to check the surveillance cameras that I had set up in the private room in advance. Looking at the two people chatting animatedly, I was speechless. They really couldn't hold back for a moment. Weren't they afraid that I'd go back halfway? However, the goal was achieved anyway. I successfully made them hook up with each other earlier. "Miss, are you here to catch your cheating partner?" Just as I was arranging the next step of my plan in my mind, the sudden question startled me. I turned around and saw a man in a leather jacket, wearing sunglasses, and with a cigarette in his mouth, leaning against the wall and looking at me. My train of thought was interrupted and I was in a bad mood. "If you have bad eyesight, go see a doctor. Why are you still wearing sunglasses at night? Can you even see the road?" He raised his eyebrows and then said, "Miss, don't make personal attacks just because I hit the nail on the head." He took off his sunglasses and I gasped. He was so handsome. I wondered what kind of love potion I had taken in my previous life that I had to cling to such a bad guy when I was young. For the sake of his handsome face, my tone softened. "I'm not a garbage collector. Why would I want to see trash piling up? It's just that the gossipy side in Chinese people's bones is acting up. I just want to see how the trash gets sorted automatically." Hearing what I said, the man curled his lips. What a coincidence. The gossipy side in my bones is also acting up. "Miss, share it with me." I was shocked. Such a handsome man was also so gossipy. At that moment, my phone rang. It was Lucas. I quickly made up an excuse that something had come up at home and I had to leave first. He complained that I didn't ask him to come with me. I said a few perfunctory words and hung up the phone. I reopened the surveillance and saw that Lucas couldn't wait to stand up and leave. After a while, Emily also left the private room. Seeing this scene, the man beside me snorted and then said, "The trash is starting to sort itself automatically." "Miss, are you curious about where they went?" I gave him a speechless look. "You're really? If you're curious, just follow them and have a look. Be careful not to get an eyesore." After saying that, I turned around and went home. The man was still looking at the wall, watching my back. This girl doesn't remember me. The once so delicate little girl is now so calm when catching cheaters. It's really interesting. The next day, the wedding ceremony was about to start when Lucas rushed over. He saw me and started complaining. "It's all because you insisted on having a bachelor party last night that I couldn't get up this morning and almost missed the wedding." Hearing this, I couldn't help but find it funny in my heart. "You should cover up the hickey on your neck before talking." But I said considerately, "I just didn't want you to have any regrets. Fortunately, there's still time. You go change your clothes first." He took the opportunity and went to change his clothes. I took the chance to get his phone, entered the password to unlock it, found Emily in the contacts, edited a text message and sent it to her, then deleted the record and put the phone back where it was. The ceremony began. All the lights in the venue went out, leaving only one shining on me. In the dazzling light, the others seemed to disappear. It was as if the whole world was just me and Lucas. In my previous life, it was also such a scene. At that time, I was full of sweetness on my face, and what I was imagining in my mind was the sweet life after marriage with this man. But at this moment, what I saw in front of me was my child's little face crying and shouting "Mommy," and what was on my mind was how to take revenge on the man in front of me and let him taste the feeling of losing all the things he cherished. I walked towards Lucas step by step, waiting for the master of ceremonies to warm up the atmosphere. I was secretly thinking to myself why Emily hadn't come yet. I didn't want to marry this scumbag. The next second, the door of the banquet hall was pushed open. It was Emily. She ran up to us and said affectionately to Lucas, "I'm here. Do you want to come with me?" As soon as these words came out, everyone in the hall was shocked. Only I had been mentally prepared and didn't miss the wonderful expressions on Lucas's face. Watching him first look delighted and then frown angrily, I couldn't help but sigh that it was really a pity that he became a lawyer. If he entered the entertainment industry, he would surely win numerous awards easily. Immersed in watching their performance, I showed the heartache of being betrayed at the right time, and then my eyes filled with tears. I gave Lucas a hard slap and then covered my face and ran out frantically. I think I'm quite suitable for the entertainment industry too. Lucas was confused by the sudden change. The guests present also started whispering when they saw the scene of someone trying to snatch the bride. They began to gossip. As soon as I reached the entrance of the hotel, I saw the man from last night waving at me. You really can always surprise people. Today you're not the woman catching cheaters but the runaway bride instead. Get in the car. I'll take you wherever you want to go. Hey, just after seeing the scumbag in an embarrassing situation, I can see a handsome guy. That's nice. I quickly got into the car, ignoring his teasing, and said calmly, then could you please take me to the Jingxing community? Thank you. Don't be so polite. We're quite faded. Let's be friends. My name is Ethan. Who's faded with you? I retorted subconsciously and then suddenly paused. Wait, what did you say your name was? Ethan? Sophia, you just remembered me now. Brother Ethan, why did you come back to China? Are Aunt Emma and the others back? Does my mom know? Ethan lay lazily on the sofa. A good-looking person lying like that was a pleasant sight, but as soon as he opened his mouth, the beauty filter was instantly broken. Your Aunt Emma heard that you were getting married and kept shouting that her daughter-in-law was gone. So she asked me to come back to China quickly to snatch the bride. I was speechless. Had he only learned to tease me after not seeing me for so long? Let me fight back. Oh, then why didn't you snatch her? You weren't even proactive when we met last night. Ethan sat up straight on the sofa and opened his mouth, as if he wanted to say something. But I waited for a long time and didn't hear his voice, so I took the initiative to say, just kidding. I don't have the heart to touch love again now. I felt that you were different from before when I saw you last night. Those two people must have hurt you a lot. Hearing this, I suddenly couldn't hold back and quickly lowered my head, afraid that Ethan would see me crying. I was just about to tell Ethan that I had been reincarnated, but I was afraid that he would think I was crazy. So I changed the topic and roughly told him about how Lucas had two-timed and hurt me together with Emily. After hearing that, he rubbed his fists and said, I hate cheaters the most in my life. It's okay to part on good terms, but they just had to play those dirty tricks. They're really spineless. Sophia, I'll help you. Let me tell you, when dealing with people like this, I was dumbfounded. The contrast between this guy's words and his appearance was too big. He really lived up to being a man who was addicted to empresses in the palace and temptation of going home when he was young. However, he did give me a lot of ideas. In a society ruled by law, it's really not easy to take revenge without crossing the legal red line. The little tricks I used before just made them hook up earlier and made Lucas lose face in front of relatives and friends, but it didn't have much impact on them. On the surface, Lucas put on a thick skin to beg me for forgiveness, but secretly he was still inseparable from Emily. Ethan's words reminded me that when dealing with a hypocritical person like Lucas, we should tear off his disguise fiercely, making everything he cared about out of his reach and something he could never get in his life. Compared to love, Emily loved money more. If Lucas lost his future and couldn't give her a good life, they would probably start fighting among themselves. In my previous life, Lucas joined a law firm to work hard right after graduation. His married status won him the favor of his boss. With the help of a noble patron and without having to worry about his family, he got promoted very smoothly and reached the management level at a young age. In this life, he just entered the workplace. The marriage didn't work out and such a big joke was made. That noble patron who advocated the rarity of love probably wouldn't promote such a half-hearted person anymore. Ethan volunteered to help me trip up Lucas, while I hired a private detective to investigate Emily's background. With both approaches working together, Lucas had a hard time making progress at work and couldn't stand out. and Emily's extravagant spending habits gradually became too much for him to bear. After enduring it for a while, Lucas's pent-up emotions finally exploded and he quarreled with Emily several times. And after each quarrel, I would receive apology text messages from Lucas, begging me to come back to him, and Emily went to nightclubs to find different men. Looking at the text messages on my phone and the photos sent by the private detective showing Emily entering hotels with different men, I felt contempt in my heart. They were really a perfect match. You two should be tied together for life. Under the deliberate targeting arranged by Ethan, Lucas no longer looked like the favored son of heaven. Just like most newcomers in the workplace, he worked overtime all day long but couldn't see any hope of getting promoted. When he got home, the place was messy everywhere and Emily was nowhere to be found, only the deduction messages on his phone kept coming. When Emily pushed the door open late at night, what she saw was him sitting dejectedly on the sofa. As soon as Emily was about to speak, Lucas's questioning voice came out. "Where have you been fooling around? Why are you back so late?" Emily pulled out a report from her bag and threw it at Lucas. "Can't you speak properly? What do you mean by fooling around? Is it fooling around to take the baby for an examination? Whose baby is it? I think you're just..." Lucas's words of rebuttal suddenly stopped, and then he quickly picked up the report on the ground to check it. "Emily, you're pregnant. We're going to be parents." At the same time, I also received the report sent by the detective. "She's pregnant? Is it Lucas's?" Hearing this, the detective curled his lips and said, "Who knows? She sent a copy to every man she hung out with. She probably doesn't even know whose baby it is herself." I was shocked. Ethan walked over and picked up my phone. Seeing the message, he said excitedly, "Ha ha ha, Lucas, the cuckold. He doesn't even know that his head is so green that a horse could gallop on it. Such a sharp tongue." I liked hearing it. Now Lucas must be so happy that he doesn't know which way is up. If you want to destroy someone, you must first make them crazy. Sophia, let him be happy for a few more days and then give him a big gift. Of course. When hitting a scumbag, we must hit the nail on the head. When Lucas accompanied Emily for the prenatal examination, I sent photos of Emily entering and leaving hotels with different men along with the time to his home. I really wanted to see what Lucas would do when facing betrayal. As soon as Lucas and Emily got home, they saw the courier bag at the door. "Emily, what did you buy?" Lucas protected Emily and walked into the house while opening the courier bag. "I haven't shopped online recently. Did you buy it?" Not hearing Lucas's response, Emily turned around and saw Lucas standing at the entrance with a livid face. "What's wrong with you? What's in the courier?" Lucas asked coldly with a livid face. "Emily, whose child is it in your belly?" A hint of guilt flashed across Emily's face, but the next second she asked loudly, "Lucas, what do you mean? Are you afraid to admit what you've done?" Lucas threw a stack of photos at Emily's feet. "Who are these people? What were you doing in the hotel with them?" After seeing the photos clearly, Emily said in a flustered manner, "Lucas, let me explain. It's not what you saw. I was just so sad after quarreling with you. I was drunk. Yes, I was drunk. I didn't know what was going on." "You didn't know? With so many people, do you dare to say that you didn't know anything about each of them and that you were all forced?" "Yes, Lucas, you know that I like you, I love you. I won't betray you. This child is yours. You have to believe me, Lucas." Lucas was extremely angry and dragged Emily outside, saying, "All right then, let's go to the hospital for an identification to see if the child you're carrying is really mine or not." "Lucas, let go of me. You're hurting me. I won't go." During the scuffle, Emily fell to the ground, clutching her stomach with cold sweat pouring down her face. "Lucas, my stomach hurts so much." Seeing the pool of bright red blood under Emily, Lucas regained his senses and rushed her to the hospital. Later, the detective told me that the child was gone. After Emily woke up, she made a big fuss, crying, shouting, and threatening to kill herself. Lucas felt so guilty that he let the matter pass and took Emily home to take good care of her. Hearing this, Ethan sneered, Lucas is really flexible. He just has to be the cuckold, huh? After Emily recovered, she was the same as before, going out to have fun every day and spending money extravagantly. After quarreling with Lucas, she still went to nightclubs to look for men. She was caught in her own trap and even the gods couldn't save her. After going out fooling around again, Emily began to feel unwell. When Lucas noticed her abnormality, he thought it was the after effect of the last miscarriage, so he suggested taking her to the hospital for a physical examination. Emily had a guilty conscience and naturally didn't dare to let Lucas accompany her. She coaxed Lucas to go to work and then went to the hospital quietly by herself. What did you say? Yes, that's right. There can't be any mistake. Hearing the detective's assurance, I was stunned. Emily was courting death. Even if I did nothing, she wouldn't live long. Sophia, Lucas took the bait. He definitely won't be able to keep his job. Lucas was quite resourceful. Knowing that it was difficult to get promoted, he came up with some crooked ideas and focused on making money instead. So Ethan and I gave him a big case. Actually, as long as he handled the case honestly, it was just an ordinary case, only that it was bound to be lost. However, Lucas fabricated evidence, delusionally attempting to help the client reverse the verdict. The migrant workers who hadn't been paid their wages lost the lawsuit. Once the media reported it, the dirty deeds underneath couldn't be hidden anymore. The favored son of heaven in the previous life became a rat that everyone shouted at in this life. I took a deep and satisfying breath. The despair I felt in my previous life was finally tasted by them. I packed my bags and went to Tibet to chant scriptures and pray for me and my child in the previous life. I hoped that my child could be reincarnated into a happy and harmonious family and grow up safely. When I returned to the city, Ethan told me that after Emily's lovers found out that they had been infected, they were looking for her everywhere. Lucas had thought that after the public attention died down, he could find a job. But because it touched the interests of the working class at the bottom, this incident became a warning case and was mentioned in the news from time to time. With his hope of finding a job shattered, Lucas stayed at home all day long. Later, because of Emily's lovers, the two of them had to hide and move house frequently. Later still, Lucas found that he had also been infected by Emily. The two who used to be so affectionate began to fight with fists and kicks every day. After being beaten up by Lucas again, Emily picked up a fruit knife and stabbed Lucas. By the time the neighbors noticed something was wrong, Lucas was already dead. And when Emily was found, it was at the beach. She was discovered by fishermen when they went out to sea. By then, her face was already unrecognizable after being soaked in the seawater for a long time. After the police investigated, they announced that the person on the beach was the fugitive Emily. After hearing this, I didn't know how to describe my mood. I was glad that the evildoers reaped what they sowed. In my previous life, Emily and Lucas had caused me and my child to die a violent death. In this life, they didn't come to a good end. I was shocked by the cycle of cause and effect. The gods are watching what people do. Sure enough, as the ancients said, never neglect to do a good deed no matter how small it is, and never engage in an evil deed no matter how insignificant it seems. Ethan saw that I was crying and laughing at the same time and was afraid that something was wrong with me. He quickly changed the topic and said, "Did you have any new experiences during your trip to Tibet this time?" I seemed not to hear him and was immersed in the news of Lucas and Emily's deaths. I was so excited that I fainted. When I opened my eyes again, all I saw was white. Am I dead? Has God taken me away? What nonsense are you talking about? Don't mention death. It's unlucky. Pooh, pooh, pooh. Turning my head, I saw Ethan looking at me worriedly. So I'm not dead. I told you it's unlucky. You're young and in the prime of life. How could you die? It's me who's almost scared to death by you. Sophia, not to be rude, but even if that cheating couple got their just desserts, you shouldn't be so excited that you fainted, right? Do you believe in past lives and present lives? In my last life, they caused me to die a violent death. Sophia, are you okay? Don't tell me you're really so happy that you've gone mad. Ethan, I'm fine and quite sober. Didn't you ask me before if I had any new experiences in Tibet? What I'm telling you now is it. Seeing that I was normal, Ethan made sure that I was okay and then sat down to listen to me. I was reincarnated. In my last life, I married Lucas and we had a lovely child named David. Later, Emily killed someone. To help her get away with it, Lucas had me undergo plastic surgery to look like Emily and take the blame for her, while Emily had plastic surgery to look like me and took my identity. To make the police believe that I was Emily, Lucas also used a report of mental abnormality to trap me in a mental hospital. On the way to the mental hospital, I saw the news that David had drowned at the beach. In grief, I committed suicide. Sophia listened to me. When I opened my eyes again, I went back to the time when Lucas proposed to me. So, Brother Ethan, I lied to you before. I didn't want to take revenge on them just because I knew Lucas was cheating, but because I wanted to avenge me and my child reincarnation. How is that possible? I'm not crazy. Everything I said is true. If you really can't accept it, you can also understand it as if I had a very terrifying nightmare. Ethan looked at me, suddenly stood up and put his arm around me. I believe you. I believe everything you said. Sophia, did it hurt a lot? How did a little girl like you endure all that? Hearing the sobs in his voice, I felt a softness in my heart and hugged him back. It's all in the past. I'm alive and well now. Brother Ethan, thank you. Thank you for helping me. Otherwise, I really didn't know if I could make them pay the price. After that day, Ethan seemed like a different person. He wasn't sharp-tongued when talking to me anymore and he was considerate and thoughtful in everything he did. I guessed what was on his mind, but having learned from the past, I didn't dare to touch love easily again. He was such a nice person and should find a girl who was equally nice and enjoy life together. One evening, I invited Ethan to go to the bridge where I committed suicide in my previous life. Why do you want to take a walk here? This is the place where I committed suicide in my previous life. I remember jumping off here. The seawater was so cold. I gradually couldn't breathe, and the seawater choked into my lungs. It hurt so much. Ethan grabbed me. Don't say any more, Sophia. It's all in the past. Forget that horrible memory. It's all over. I can't forget it. Even though Lucas and Emily have already paid the price for what they did, the hurt still exists. I gave my heart without any guard, but it was broken into pieces. As if sensing what I was going to say next, Ethan suddenly let go of me and walked forward. After taking a few steps, he turned back, his voice trembling. I know why you're saying these things. But Sophia, trust me just this once. I won't let you down. I don't dare to love anyone else anymore, Brother Ethan. You're a really, really nice person. I can't hold you back. Looking at my red and swollen eyes, Ethan hugged me tightly. We're still young. There's plenty of time. I'll wait for you. I'll wait for you to get over your inner demons. Sophia, you should remember that never take others' mistakes onto yourself and never punish yourself with others' faults. Life is your own. Cherish the present. This was the last sentence Ethan said to me that day. After that day, I took a long leave from the company and traveled around by myself. I went to see famous mountains and great rivers and experienced the hustle and bustle of life. Reading 10,000 books is not as good as traveling 10,000 miles. Along the way, the wonder of nature and the various aspects of human relationships gradually made me realize that it's really not advisable to be immersed in the past all the time. God gave me a chance to start over, and I should cherish it. Next, it's time for me to live my own life well. Chapter 8. I met Ethan again in Tibet. His usually handsome face was flushed red by the wind on the plateau. I smiled at him and said, "It hasn't been that long since we last met. How did you end up like this?" He rushed over and hugged me tightly. "I knew you would come here. I've been waiting for you for a long time. I missed you so much." I hugged him back tightly. I'm a sucker for good looks. If you can't get your looks back to how they were before, I won't want you anymore. Hearing my words, Ethan looked up in disbelief. Sophia, what are you saying? I want my boyfriend to be a handsome guy. I won't want someone who's too ugly. I'm very handsome. You can't not want me. Looking at Ethan, who was as happy as a child, I thought to myself that I'll take a gamble one more time. If I lose, I'll just blame it on bad luck. Sophia, don't worry. I'll be good to you. I've been looking forward to being with you again for so long. I can't bear to hurt you. Got it, got it. Ethan's family immigrated abroad when he was a child to treat his mother's illness. After I got together with Ethan, we went abroad to visit Ethan's parents together. Aunt Emma knew that we were together and happily held my hand. This naughty boy is finally reliable for once. Sophia, if he dares to bully you, tell Aunt Emma. Aunt Emma will teach him a lesson for you. Mom, I finally managed to win her over. Don't scare her away. 2 years after marriage, our child was born. Ethan was afraid that the child would disturb my rest, so he took the child to the guest room to sleep at night. He was even more proficient than I was at feeding the baby with milk powder and changing diapers. In a trance, I saw myself taking care of the child alone in my previous life, and Lucas did nothing when he came back. It was a typical marriage where it felt like I was a widow. Sophia, why are you crying? Was it the wind? I came back to my senses, wiped my face, and then smiled at Ethan. I realized that I really married a wonderful person.